They're not human beings anymore.
Violence and brutal punishments from the SS guards were a daily event, and the threat of the gas chambers and crematoria was ever present.
From the very beginning, the SS believed that only one crematoria alone would be sufficient, with an overall capacity of about 100 bodies a day. But gradually they added the second oven, then the third, and finally they built 4 huge crematories in Birkenau with a total capacity of almost 5,000 bodies a day.
5,000 people can be burned, their bodies can be burned every
Yes,
day.
theoretically, yes. And but as we know from the testimonies of survivors, sometimes this number was even higher.
A type of gas called Zyklon B was used in the gas chambers. It had originally been marketed as an insecticide, but as the Nazis sought ever more efficient methods for mass murder, its potential as a chemical weapon was exploited. In humans, suffocation was swift if inhaled or absorbed through the skin.
Most of the guards have no contact with the victims, but everybody here knew what happened in gas chambers and crematories because they could see the flames and the clouds of smoke. They could smell this awful odor of burning human flesh, so they had to know what was going on.
However much horror you thought about, you'd never imagine what was happening. And who ever imagined something about guessing people and burning them? It never came into the mind.
Each day, prisoners could be singled out for the gas chambers. Some would be given towels and told they were being taken to the showers to bathe. They would wait their turn, then undress and enter a chamber similar to this one at Dachau. Zyklon B would be released, and within minutes, everyone would be dead. Other prisoners would drag the bodies out, and then the bodies would be burned. These photographs, taken secretly by an inmate forced to work in the crematoria, are the only ones known to exist of the atrocities that took place at Auschwitz. So you can't film in there out of respect for the victims, because along one side of the wall there's a huge display case, and it is full of human hair that has been shaved from the bodies of people after they've been gassed. And it's those details that I had no idea, but really will stay with me. Even the ashes of the burned bodies at Auschwitz would be put to use. Arek was one of the inmates forced to work in the fields.
They used to bring from the crematorium ashes and we put it on the soil. Sometimes I used to feel some bones in my hand, but you couldn't help it. It's, you had to do what you had to do.
How many members of your family do you think you lost because of the Holocaust?
I think it must have been in the hundreds.
Oh dear, 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 dear. I would definitely say my mother and my youngest brother and sister. I mean, I'm sure they're allowed at Auschwitz. Painful. Painful.
By the autumn of 1944, with the end of the war in sight, the authorities at Auschwitz had begun transferring prisoners to other camps and systematically destroying evidence of the atrocities that had taken place. I don't think I've ever come across a physical embodiment of hatred like this. If if you've not been here and you've not experienced it, then I don't think you are as afraid as you should be of where hatred can go. And this is unthinkable, right? This is unthinkable for most people in their normal lives. This is unthinkable, but it happened. When the Soviet Red Army entered Auschwitz on the 27th of January 1945, they found the last remaining prisoners. Thousands of starving men, women, and children. They found the burned remains of thousands more. Several tons of human hair, and the last remnants of the lives of those killed. In less than 5 years in Auschwitz alone, around 1 million Jews were killed. Approximately 70,000 Poles, 21,000 Roma and Sinti, 15,000 Soviet POWs, and 12,000 other ethnic Europeans. By the time Auschwitz-Birkenau was liberated, Rini, Arik, and Ivor had all been moved on to other camps. Rini was freed from Bergen-Belsen and eventually managed to make her way to Paris, where she fell in love with a British military policeman. They later married and had 2 children.
And instead of hate, I learned to love life and people, and I hope that everybody should live in peace.
After liberation, Ivor and his brother, who had also survived the war, were sent to a displaced persons camp.
I was hungry for life. I was more looking for the good things and forgetting about the bad things.
Both Arik and Harry, who had spent the war incarcerated in forced labour camps working for the German war effort, were rescued from Theresienstadt. When did you think, I'm finally safe?
On the last day of the war, the 8th of May 1945, the whole camp was taken over by the Red Cross. And the nurse said the British government allowed to take 1,000 orphans to be taken to England. So I went to England.
Ivor, Harry and Arik were all selected for the British government scheme designed to help survivors recover. Ivor was brought to Southampton before being moved on to Ascot. Arik, along with Harry, was offered a new beginning at Lake Windermere.
We sat on the floor, 15 on one side. That was me. Yeah. They took off and we eventually arrived in the Lake District and were taken to the encampment there, and we were put, some of the children, into a barrack. We each had a little room and a bed and a little chest of drawers, and we had our own door, and it was marvelous.
Windermere was a different place altogether. We arrived there in the dining hall with plates and tablecloths and bread, white bread on the tables. We hadn't seen white bread for years.
What was it like when you first saw the lakes and when you got off the coach?
It's unbelievable. You just can't imagine it. We had clothes to wear, but it was we were human again for the first time in years and years. We're human.
Today, Harry and Arik are revisiting the place where they were given the chance to live again.
We're getting on them now.
Getting
You haven't changed a bit, except you have a grey.
we are the dinosaurs.
I used to swim in this thing.
So did I.
Yeah. I was one of the barracks, had my own little room, a bed, and a wardrobe, and that was it.
Yeah, I know, but what number block were you?
I think it was number 6. Remember what block you were here?
Block E.
E.
I think Block E.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, those were the days.
We were brought up here for holidays, not quite knowing what our father had been through. And it was always a happy, positive place for him, and seeing him so happy here.
He still seems to come alive when he arrives here, when he sees that lake and when he arrives here.
He said they had such fun times here. They were family to each other because they'd lost everybody, and it was somewhere to belong and somewhere to start again.
For them to have gone from such horror to such a beautiful place and learning to just be boys again, learning to be human after everything they've been through. I didn't think that I would get to hear that in this story. That demonization, that dehumanization, and that disinformation that the Nazis used against the Jewish people, well, it's not just in books and the cinema and radio like it was back then. Now we get it direct. We all get it direct to our phones. I think we owe it to the people that have been through that to really ask, where are we getting this information from? Who's giving this information and why? Because that hatred that we have seen, it still exists in different forms even today.